All right, welcome back to Concrete Conversations. I'm your host today, Ken Krautheim. I've been a member of the CIB and the Concrete Industry Board for over 34 years, various golf committees and program chairs, and this podcast is brand new to me. But today I'm sitting with the guru of shotcrete. We're going to talk a little bit about shotcrete, and the gentleman next to me knows it the best, Mr. Frank Townsend. Welcome, Frank.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Just a little bit of history so people know, what is shotcrete?
So shotcrete is basically just shooting concrete. I think the misconception is that shotcrete's a different thing. You're basically just taking concrete, you're shooting at high velocity, and you're getting the compaction through the velocity.
And it is a form of cast in place, correct?
Yeah, so it's specified in ACI 318 and 301 as a means of placing shotcrete. Is it form and pour? No, but it is cast in place, yes.
Wonderful. Now, one of the things I've always thought about, the history of shotcrete, a little background on it.
Sure.
Where was it started? How did it use?
Yeah, it's actually a good question. I go into offices every day and they say, what is shotcrete? It's new. Shotcrete's been around since 1901, Charles Ackley. From there, it's kind of developed through time. ACI is adopted in 1951. So you can see it's been around for over 75 years. It's not a new thing by any means. Shotcrete's ACI 506, so it has its own code. And it's really big out on the West Coast. California, extremely common foundations. Every foundation is shotcrete. East Coast, it's extremely slow kind of to take. But the history is there. Things like the Staples Center, Hudson Yards right here, World Trade Center, East Side Access, major projects were done with the use of placing concrete via shotcrete means.
Right. Wow. Patriot Shotcrete, your company, obviously centered around military. You have a background in military. Give us a little history on yourself, how you got into this shotcrete world.
Sure. I was in the military for 10 years, kind of traveled around the world, deployed everywhere like everybody else. Kind of did the thing, didn't know really much about shotcrete, got out of the military, worked for a company called Conti, then to Schiavone, and then Tudor Perini. Tudor Perini owned a shotcrete company. Yep. That company was Superior Gunite. I got brought in to lead that company. Tudor Perini kind of retreated back for the most part with the shotcrete company to the West Coast. From there, Ron Tudor was very gracious and kind of helped me start my company. I started my own company about 5 years ago. And we're a service disabled veteran small business, located basically the tri-state area here.
Awesome. Military wise, we talk about it. I know your company is currently a DBE, correct?
No.
My bad.
So the DB thing's actually in conversation right now. It's funny you bring that up. So the DB status nationwide is on hold. So as of 6 months ago, the federal government put a hold on all the DB programs until the Department of Transportation releases new guidance, which is probably not going to be until the next term. So the DB thing is on hold. So what we are is we're a service disabled veteran only.
Okay.
We should fall into the DB bucket. It's difficult, to navigate without it.
Right. Projects, notable things that have happened here. I know you've been on a number of them. I had a past life with you in concrete world. Give me some stuff. I know you talked even as much as SpaceX.
Sure. So we've done projects locally, like East Side Access, a lot of the tunnels for the MTA, Grand Central Station all the way up to 2nd Avenue. And we've done stuff here, the 1 and 9 line box through the World Trade Center site. A lot of stuff in the World Trade Center. That's kind of what brought shotcrete to the region, was because they needed, concrete expedited. So they needed vertical concrete now. And the form systems and the logistics of placing forms is verbose, and it takes up space where shotcrete doesn't. So that time savings is really what brought shotcrete here. It kind of launched us all over, from crazy stuff like Shark Tank in Tracy Morgan's backyard. So holding back water with, 15 different sharks, to like launchpad repairs in SpaceX, after explosions and things like that. And then everything in between. So foundations, dams. Right now we're doing a couple dams in Connecticut and other tunnels throughout. We're down in Virginia doing a tunnel as we speak as well. Right.
And generally, like thinking about the applications, I know all the stuff you just rattled off, which is kind of an amazing list of job references. What's the benefit, right? If I'm going to shoot the shotcrete with my choice of, I'm traditionally form and pour guy, I think of, I got to slap up all these forms. I know you touched on it just in this last segment, but what is the benefit of it? Like, what do I do? What do I save? Is it time? Is it money? Is it a combination?
It's mostly time. So your traditional form and pour methods of a foundation, you're looking at ballpark 500 square feet a shift. Shotcrete's going to get you 1,000 square feet plus or more a shift. One example I can give you, like very close to here near the Lincoln Tunnel, was we did the Peloton headquarters. 477 1-foot round columns. They wanted to build a superstructure on top of it. The contractor came to us and said, okay, we're going to do one a day. I said, okay, we can do at least 3. So we wound up actually doing 5. So we did 5. We went from 1 to 3 foot columns, did 5 a day, and it cut their schedule by over a year. Now you're talking, a $450 million rent above that was added a year earlier. So it's the cost of money of getting in and out quicker.
Right.
A typical foundation that's 4,000 square feet, we're in and out in 4 days. We're not mobbing, dropping the form, shaking the forms out, putting the forms up. We're in and out in 4 days.
Right.
So it's mostly.
So that's a great point. I was talking about, I think you and I talked off camera about the sugar factory, the old Domino sugar factory, right? There was a job, which I happened to be involved with in at the time, for the first high-rise building over at the Domino sugar factory over in Dumbo there.
Correct.
Difference between it was specifically about the foundation and traditional form and pour versus shotcrete method. Give us a little background on that one, because I think that's a pretty notable job highlight.
Yeah, so with the Domino sugar, they went with a different approach method. So what they did is they wanted to make a bathtub. So they wanted the bathtub in first, where traditionally you would go walls, floor, walls, floor, walls, floor out of the ground. On that job, what we did is we actually shot all the walls. They left all the floor dowels wild. So we actually just shot the walls up. Now they had an enclosed bathtub. And then from there, they were able to go up. I mean, that was an interesting job, especially that one, because we talked to them up front and kind of gave them what we were going to do. Right. It was before our Christmas holiday many, many years ago. And I remember talking to the owner and saying, okay, order your steel now. And the gentleman said, no, we're okay. We'll get it on schedule. And I'm like, I'm telling you, we're going to do the foundation in about a week. And they said, it's going to take you 3 months. And I said, a week. We went in there, we did it in a week. And the guy kind of sat there and he was like, holy crap, like wasn't expecting that.
Makes a huge difference.
So for us, it's really, especially in expensive markets like New York City, where labor is expensive, time is just expensive here, where we can get in and out quicker with a tiny little footprint. It changes the game, especially for vertical and overhead, concrete construction.
Right. So that brings up the next point, a little about vertical versus overhead, right? We're going to shoot a wall. It's one way and mechanism to shoot, but you're going to shoot a cavern in East Side access tunnels, which I know you've shot. A lot of vertical overhead stuff. Give me a little bit of differences for our audience out there. Vertical
wise, a lot of the stuff, we can shoot traditional walls. Not that difficult. We basically just shoot and stack, and then from there, cut it down and finish over. You're probably talking at least 1,000 or more square feet in a shift for you contractors out there. Overhead's a different ballgame because overhead, you're kind of defying gravity. You're kind of shooting it, notching it back, and you're kind of building your way in like a keyway, and or around protrusions and things like that will build off of. That you're probably looking more 400 plus square feet in a shift. Thicknesses wise, I know you didn't go there, but thicknesses wise,
it's on my list, Frank. It was on my list.
Relax, it's okay. There's different applications of shotcrete. So there's dry and there's wet. So dry is basically 5 inches on in, kind of a repair stuff. Like you're going to do the TV screen, the door, patch repair, bridges and parking garages and things of that nature. Wet mix is more continuous, large walls. It makes sense, especially in New York, for walls up to about 4 feet thick. Beyond that, I think it's a cost thing that the contractors, you'll know, large volume, the cost of the formwork, it just doesn't economically make sense. But 4 feet on in, if you're not using shotcrete, you're kind of missing the ball. You're stuck in 1980. And to prove it, you can just look out west. You can talk to every engineering company out west, every contractor out west and say, we got this foundation, how would you do it? It's all shotcrete.
Right. So we also touched upon, I just want to delineate for the the viewers out there, the difference, right? Somebody says, "Oh, I've had shotcrete. My pool in my backyard was shotcrete," right? Give us a little description. I know that's not exactly correct.
Thank you. So the most common use of shotcrete in the world is pools. It's just a fact. Unfortunately, it's also the worst quality of shotcrete. It's something we're addressing now at ACI. We have a new committee now just for pool constructors. So we're trying to change that view because you have a lot of like fly-by-night contractors that just jumping in saying, okay, I can shoot that. They don't understand water cement ratios. They don't understand aggregate gradations, and there's things that are becoming problems from there. It darkens the community gets darkened, people stay away. Wet mix is large scale, commercial. Dry mix is like bagged materials and small projects. The pools are mostly dry mix. So there's a lot of variability.
Isn't it kind of called gunite instead when you're doing that out in the pool?
Well, it's the old history term to it. Yeah.
Okay.
The history term to it is gunite. Now it's shotcrete, and it's shotcreters is the person that's actually performing the work.
Right.
The pool stuff is definitely a work in progress, but there's different. It's evolving today. We're working on with ACI remote manipulated. How do you control that? Because it's really something that's up and coming. Large scale soil nail walls, in tunnels, you start to see,
right.
This remote manipulated where you keep people safe and get people out of the way, which there's definitely a place for it. It's just a matter of the safety and the quality of trying to make sure it's done right.
Right. Now, you were the president a long time for ASA, which for those that don't know is the American Shotcrete Association. Frank had been the president a number of years. Also very instrumental in the ACI committees for shotcrete. Speaking of robotics, we'll talk about it for a minute. Like AI, right? The big term. Is AI coming to shotcrete in a theater near us?
I don't think so. I mean, is it? Sure. I'm sure it is. It's for everybody at some point in time. Is it happening tomorrow? I don't think so. The remote stuff's been there for a while. And what they'll do is they'll scan and they'll shoot. The issue with it is when you're shooting around rebar and things like that. So being up close and personal and actually seeing it working around things, right. Is kind of what makes, shotcrete what it is. That's why there is a shotcreter. It's those things. But I think one of the biggest misconceptions that people have is, okay, I'll just get a robot and shoot it, which I've seen. You've seen in inside access. The reality is it's a team. It's not a person. It's not a right. robot. So you have the shotcreter who is actually applying the material. But there's also somebody that sets wires, give them grade. There's somebody that's pulling the hose and kind of giving them an eye vision on where to go and if there's issues, where the robotics are far away. So it's really tough to see like, oh, did I miss that spot or did I glaze over it? And then air with shotcrete's a big thing. So like if, another misconception that they have out there is, well, I could just go grab a shotcreter and go. Well, wet mix, you need probably at least 375 CFM of air just to move that wet line.
Right.
And everyone thinks, oh, well, dry, you need less. Actually, dry, you need double that. You need about at least a 750 just because you're pushing that line. So there's, it's not something, it looks simple. So when you go out on a job, a lot of people are like, oh, it's easy. And we've seen people we've done work for in Washington, D.C. just go and say, oh, we're going to start a shotcrete company at 99.9% fails over time,
Right. Critical certifications, right? I'm not just going to go out and pick up a shotcrete equipment and go start it myself, right? If I want to be a building owner, developer, somebody that wants to take the chance, see shotcrete if I've never used it before, what am I looking for? What could I delineate for value of the contractor versus anybody running out and buying stuff?
I think first and foremost is the contractor's nozzle it used to be nozzleman, shotcreters, ACI certified. It's an important thing. It costs money. It proves if you know what you're doing. It's kind of like giving a kid the keys of a car 20 years ago. You can't do it today because everybody plays video games and they know how to drive already. But 20 years ago, and you say, here's the keys, go drive. You're like, oh, Right. So ACI certification, it really proves that the shotcreters know what they're doing. That's just the beginning of it. I think involvement in ASA is important. I think you need to be involved in the industry. What ASA does is it's an education platform. So any contractor that wants any questions about shotcrete, the best thing you can do is pick up the phone and call them. Their executive director is Charles Anscott, very, very smart man. And from there, you could say, hey, I just want to know more about Shotcrete. He'll probably fly to you, or somebody will come to you. They'll give a presentation to you, your company, on a job site. If you're interested in learning to do it yourself, the same thing. They have an ASA contractor certification program. So you can go through that certification program. So that, again, it's kind of one of those credibility things. We're going to have vertical and overhead panels, similar to like repair stuff or structural walls. And from there, you're gonna see up close and personal how to shoot it, how it's done right by ACI certified nozzle persons. We're gonna kind of talk you through the safety aspects, so you can kind of understand the whole process. It's not going to be just like click, let's go. We're going to kind of talk about it, go through it. We're going to do it, and then we're going to kind of stop and regroup and be like, okay, this is what we did. This is how we're going to do it. From there, the CIB, we're going to get a testing agency, and one of the CIB companies are going to core it.
Wonderful.
And then later on, at a follow-on meeting, we're going to break those cores at that lab and do a lab thing. Besides the Shotcrete at the plant, we're also going to do a plant tour. So you can go around, you can learn how the concrete's made. So it's kind of full life cycle that we're doing for that.
So been talking about it in placement applications, things like that. And one of the questions I have, and the viewers out there probably have, what about aesthetics for architectural value, right? I think of Shotcrete. Sometimes I just think of this glob on the wall, no offense. Mm-hmm. But the potential is I can do so much more to it. Give us some of the typical finishes, and then give us some of the creative finishes you've seen in Shotcrete applications.
I'm going to first throw at you strength, okay, and then I'll go into the pretty stuff. I think that one of the big issues is Shotcrete is the glob on the wall, right? The reality is Shotcrete in New York City is anywhere from 7 to 10,000 PSI. It's not less than 7, and it's generally not more than 10 because it's very difficult with the aggregates and things to get there. But an 8,000 PSI mix is extremely common. So if you think about structural applications, or really any applications, 8,000 PSI is pretty over-designed on 99% of the jobs.
Yeah.
To the architectural side, to the pretty stuff, we can do anything you want. So if you think about being a kid on a sidewalk, right, and the sidewalk guy goes and does it, and he leaves, and you instantly go out there and you write your name on the concrete, and then you can erase it, you can write your name, you can do it, anything you want. So that's kind of what Shotcrete is. It's a plastic, it stays wet for hours. So what that gives us the ability to do is we can stamp it, like so we can put bricks or design of a company or whatever it might be. We can carve it. We can make it look like rocks and stain it. We can paint stain it, or we can use acid and things like that to color match it to a certain rock type. So you can sit there and say, okay, I want this specific rock.
Right.
That color, that design, that shape, we can match it. The finishers are artists. To say that like the industry is dead with artists with workmanship, it's not true. There's definitely great workmanship out there. And we could do anything from, if you look at the Natural History Museum up on the west side, that's all Shotcrete application. We actually recently just did a museum last night, as a matter of fact, and it was like a geode look. So you can kind of do anything. If you look in time, 20 years ago, Superior Gunite used to do all of Disney's work. So if you go to Disney and you look at all the rocks and all that stuff, that was Superior Gunite 20 years ago. Disney being what they are and smart and ingenious, they said, okay, see it, got it, we're going to make our own. So now actually Disney has their own, they're called the Imaginariums, and they have their own group that they go and they actually make their own, they do their own Shotcrete. So they've kind of learned over time. So you can carve, stamp, anything you can dream of.
Right.
We can do with it.
So the finish can become that flat face finish. So if I'm doing an interior wall, for instance, right, and I think you did it, one of the notable projects I remember is the Converse headquarters, where you tied the brick in, so structurally it helped, and I won't go into it, you're going to go into it, but tell us a little bit about that, and then the fact that the final finish really could be a float,
Yeah, so we can go from like natural rock gun, which is pretty rough. Believe it or not, we're starting to see a lot of architects like that nowadays. It's actually the cheapest and actually structurally the best because you're not disturbing the surface. Or we can go dead flat. You can make it perfectly flat. So you can, for instance, if you have a foundation wall, you usually have your form lines from panel to panel or placement to placement. It would be dead flat. There's no form lines, there's no snap tie holes, there's none of that. So you can kind of go in between both. You mentioned Converse headquarters. That was a structural application that was pretty unique. And what that was I think it was about 6-story building, brick building. And from there, they were similar to kind of the Peloton thing here.
Right.
That they needed to do a lot of structural retrofit to it. So they needed stability in that exterior in the foundation walls. So we wound up shooting different archways, different shapes, and stamping that. So it was a brick look. So it stayed. If you walked inside it, you go, oh my God, look at this old brick building. This is beautiful. When in reality, it's a whole new concrete inside of it. I think on the architectural side, I think my favorite one was it's a company it's a bridge, up in New Hampshire. So we did this bridge, had 4 piers. We were shooting about a pier a day. What that means, and for the contractors out there, I think you're going to get this. 40 yards a shift doesn't sound like a lot. I got it. From a man lift, 100 to 140 feet in the air. So you're swaying, you're on a river, and we're shooting and we're carving rock. So we were doing a pier a day, which is unbelievably significant. So we were doing a pier a day. We were about 3 days in, and I was up with them because the engineer didn't believe the reliefs on the stones that we were doing. They said, oh, you don't have the relief over the rebar. So we're literally measuring the reliefs, which is comedy, but that's a totally different story. And we get a phone call from the project manager saying, hey, Frank, tell your guys to stop and just get down off the bridge. I want you to tell me what you see. It's like, okay. Tell the guys on the radio, everybody stops. My head, I'm thinking somebody's hard hat fell off or something of that nature. Everybody's good. I said, everybody good? Yeah. So I take the man lift down. I walk back 100 feet. I turn around and he's like, what do you see? And I'm like, oh man. He's like, what do you see? I'm like, I can see where you did form, because they did form panels below us. And we took it where they couldn't because it was inverted 3 feet overhead. And I'm like, I can see your form lines and we don't have them. So our stuff looks real. Your stuff looks fake. And I said, it's exactly right. Tell your guys to carve form lines in. So we finished the bridge actually carving form lines to make it look like it was formed.
So you had to manufacture bad defects.
Yes.
That's great.
Unbelievable.
Meet all kinds in this business. Well, that's been wonderful. Well, we really appreciate you sitting down and having time with us to discuss this unique application of concrete and really underutilized in the metropolitan and New York City area. We thank you for your time today, Frank.
Thanks,
appreciate
man.
it.
Appreciate it.